This is my best kind of show notes because we didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Oh, like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
how
insane.
Did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, welcome everybody to Corona TV. I am positioned in front of the mystery box. What is the mystery box and why should you care? You're going to find out. Are you curious? Well, you should be, because you're going to learn all about curiosity from my very special guest, Andrew Davis. And you know, I got to tell you, I know what you're in store for, because I've seen him in action. During the pandemic, he was the guest speaker at this incredible virtual lunch. I mean, it didn't start off as a virtual lunch. It started off as a lunch that went virtual, a series called You Are the Media. And I was just a fly on the wall. I'm actually going to be the keynote or the guest speaker in August. So I just joined to see what it was about. And I found myself just learning from this guy, writing down copious notes. I'm not trying to be, snarky or skeptical or jaded or cynical, but it takes a lot to, excite me or teach me or when I see an original, I know it. And I think Andrew Davis is an original. So you're in store for one hell of a time. You're going to love this, and you're going to love the after show, whether you're watching on Facebook or whether you join us at bit.ly/CoronaTV after show and ask him a question or comment or join the conversation. Someone wrote a book on that once, I believe. So Andrew is the Hump Day guest. Tomorrow we have the rescheduled, or at least Monday became Thursday, Thursday became Monday. NBA legend and legendary businessman Jamal Mashburn, and then Charles Green rounding us off on Friday. But today is all about Andrew Davis, and yeah, you're going to meet him in about 7 or 8 minutes. But before I bring him on, just a reminder, if you want to get a heads up, if you want to plan your calendar, if you want to get a sense as to, number one, what I thought about our guests, maybe a few highlights from my perspective. Number two, who's coming up the following week, or number three, all of my seated soliloquies. To get the full copy or script, all you got to do is subscribe to my newsletter or text the word Corona TV to 66866 if you are in North America. Not many people on Facebook celebrating birthdays today, at least my friends, 8 of you, but I want to wish you guys happy birthday, and likewise with LinkedIn. Just a very interesting thought. I send everyone afterwards a message on their Facebook wall. or LinkedIn. And, I basically say to them, happy birthday, happy birthday. You got a shout out on Corona TV. And it's funny because, I would honestly say I've been doing this since March 15th. Only in about 4 or 5 instances have people actually complained or been snarky about it, as in, is this link baiting, or where was my shout out, or why are you doing this, or if I didn't get a shout out, I'm going to sue you, or I'm going to get you removed from LinkedIn. And I just follow up just normally, and I just say, yeah, it was a shout out. It was in text. I just wanted to send some positive vibes your way. But it's amazing how only 4 or 5 times out of now hundreds, if not thousands of shout outs, people have really responded not only well, but incredibly well, as in, wow, like I didn't know you knew me or cared, or what a surprise. And at the end of the day, if we can't surprise and delight, then what are we doing here? What are we doing if we can't always bring that unexpected element to the table? Well, today is National Lipstick Day. It's not National Wear Someone Else's Lipstick on Your Collar Day. It's National Lipstick Day. And I chose this in a sense because I think it's important to dress to impress, or in this case, maybe just impress yourself. Look, I'm wearing a Superman shirt. I don't know whether Andrew is impressed by that or not, but he dresses to impress, number one. And I don't even think this is necessarily about impressing others. I think, why I wanted to share National Lipstick Day is every now and then, if you haven't been putting on makeup, if you haven't been dressing up, if you haven't put gel in your hair, do it. Do it for yourself, if not for others. And that's why I think National Lipstick Day has some kind of meaning. Well, today's seated soliloquy is, all about curiosity. It's an amazing concept, an amazing theme, and something that I really can't wait to get into the weeds with Andrew. I think the question on everyone's mind right now is a very simple one. Did curiosity kill the cat? And if so, what did the cat do to deserve such a gruesome end? And what type of cat was it? And who was the cat? Could it have been the cat in the hat? And if so, what role did the hat play in the killing of the cat? Asking questions is absolutely the most important aspect of the process of being creative, open-minded, and exploring things not as they are or appear, but moreover, what they could be or might become in the future. As I mentioned on yesterday's show with Colin Shaw, if you want to get the right answers, you have to ask the right questions. And right now, we're not asking the right questions in business, in politics, in life. In fact, in some cases, we're not asking questions at all. And when this happens, we might as well throw in the proverbial towel. Curiosity and creativity are joined at the hip. And in both cases, they share a common truth. Children have an abundance of them. But at some point, societal norms, business best practices, or these days, social media stigma beat it out of us and reduce us to nothing more than a carbon copy of vanilla. Why is that? We should reward, not punish, the irritating child, annoying coworker, or persistent audience member who doesn't shut up for a second. With a hat tip to one of my favorite series of all time, The X-Files, question everything. We need to be thirsty for knowledge, obsessed with finding out more, and never, ever satisfied with the status quo. Or to quote the always curious Fox Mulder, a dream is an answer to a question we haven't learned how to ask. And while I don't know exactly what that means, it has made me curious to find out more. Well, now it's time to bring on my guest, Andrew Davis. And I'm going to give a very brief introduction to him. But in his case, I'll probably do something different because, this is all about being different. Andrew Davis has worked for the Muppets and MTV. It's about a bunch of random facts. He co-founded, built and sold a marketing agency. You might have seen him on the Today Show or in the New York Times. He's a best-selling author and one of the most influential marketers in the world. But most importantly, he's had more coffee today than you'll drink in a week. And today we're going to talk about curiosity. So why not just actually launch into something different that introduces him? This is called the curiosity factor.
Your audience has no time. Your audience has the attention span of a goldfish. You know how we're told to keep our content short?
No time, no time, no time.
Our audience will make time to consume content that maintains their interest.
We need to learn how to not just grab, but grab and hold our audience's attention.
Don't worry about the box. We're going to get to the box in just a minute. In an effort to make our content shorter, we've eliminated all the things that actually makes it interesting. This is a mystery box.
Yes! Curiosity gaps actually create tension. And tension is the emotional anxiety we feel when there's a gap between what we know and what we want to know. The more tension you raise, the more they need to see the outcome.
Oh my gosh, guys, it's me, Sparkles423. It's an abacus. Did the payoff measure up to the outcome on a scale of 1 to 10? No, she's a 10.
Your content's payoff must be proportional to the tension you've built. You see, what happens is when we create content that someone says is too long, what they're actually saying is, I have no more questions.
Welcome, Andrew Davis.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. This is so much fun. I love the buttons that say question everything. That was awesome.
You know what I loved? I love that point about when people say your content is too long, it just means that they have no more questions. All right. What a brilliant statement.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that whole idea and my exploration into curiosity started because people kept telling me my content was too long and I just kept shortening it. And then I realized it's just not working because now it's too short and no one cares about the content. Yes, they get through it, but they don't actually care. So fixing the content and really understanding how it could really work and grab and hold their attention for as long as possible is what led to that kind of entire exploration. And that's, if you create any content, if anyone out there is creating content and the first piece of feedback you get from someone is, hey, I really loved it, but it's too long, don't immediately start cutting it. The first thing you should do is try to reorder the content so that people are chasing a question the entire time. You'll have so much more fun trying to do that instead of just trying to cut the stuff that is actually really good.
I played the whole video because it's for people watching at home, try and take a guess how long you thought that video was. Put it in the comments if you like. Did it seem like it was 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds, 60 seconds? It actually was 1 minute and 45 seconds. And it went by like that. And I put it in because, speaker reels and sizzle reels can be sometimes so overproduced. But this one was just like engaging. And obviously the mystery box had everything to do with it, didn't it?
That's right. The mystery box is such a... Have you ever bought a mystery box, by the way, Joseph?
I haven't, but I watched your video on mystery boxes, and I didn't realize it was a thing.
Oh, it's really a thing. Yeah, I recommend that everybody go out and buy a mystery box at some point, even if it's as a gift, because it is a real thing. And basically, you don't know what's in the box until the box arrives. And it is such an emotional experience. Not knowing what you're going to get makes you so excited about the box that even it doesn't even matter what's in it. The real gift of a mystery box is the feeling you get when it arrives. And before you open it, that is going to be the peak of your your enthusiasm. I almost guarantee it. But try it because it's such a great feeling. And mystery boxes are such a phenomenon. You know how they got started? It's the weirdest thing. They actually got started in the UK. There was a candy store in the early 2000s that had a bunch of candy that was going to go bad. The expiration date was supposed to be stamped on there, and they knew that if they sold this candy, they'd be kind of selling rotten candy. So to get rid of it quickly, they started selling in the store a box that was unlabeled, just a mystery candy mystery box, and you basically would pay a flat fee for that box, and whatever you got was whatever you got, and people loved it. In fact, the store became known for the mystery candy box, and then they started selling them on eBay. And when eBay heard about them and the community there saw that you could do this, it took off like a rocket ship. So it all started at a candy store in the UK with a very simple idea. That was designed to get rid of rotten candy.
Exactly, rotten. But I mean, growing up in South Africa, we used to call them lucky packets.
Lucky packets, that's right.
And then I just realized something as well, which is, first of all, I'm going to come back to all of this in terms of the mystery box. But then I realized, there's a little fun fact about you. Which is that you used to be a child actor and you appeared in a certain commercial, and I kind of fooled you afterwards before telling you I hadn't watched it, but here is the commercial.
Better than yours, it's got velvet on the walls. We've got double velvet, but we can't play in here. Of course we can.
If your home has to put up with normal living, then you need a rather special paint, double velvet.
Yoo-hoo, I'm home.
Because double velvet is not only beautiful, it's also completely washable.
David, where are you? Quick, quick. What are you doing in here? Nothing, Mom.
Washable double velvet. Shrugs off trouble on the double.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Pascon Double Velvet's Collide.
So I'm literally watching that and mouthing the words, "Nothing, Mom." That was a commercial that I remember growing up in South Africa.
My God. Do you really?
I remember the commercial. I remember it. I remember every word to it, basically. And I didn't realize there was a South African connection with you.
Yeah. In fact, my mom got me into acting in South Africa because I was such a kind of overly energetic kid that she needed some place she could send me where I would expend as much energy as possible. And she thought little theater program would be great for me. I ended up doing a Plascon paid commercial. And I did a bunch of Cadbury's chocolate commercials when I was a kid there. And do you remember Pyatt's Ice Biscuits?
Yeah, and Pyatt's Romany creams and
yes.
Ice Zoo you're talking about.
Yeah, the Ice Zoo. I did a Pyatt's Ice Zoo commercial. All the little animals love them. I was like the rhinoceros at the end.
You were the rhinoceros. I named this animal Gus.
Oh,
Gus the rhinoceros.
Gus, that's right. Wow, you even know him.
No. So I want to go back to the mystery box for a second. And I had like this moment of, this epiphany as you were talking, which is the whole concept of Birchbox and Barkbox and all of these successful startups. That's just a mystery box at the end of the day, isn't it?
That's right. It's just a mystery box. You know, what's amazing to me about this idea that getting a box is a real experience is all about the emotion that's attached to the anticipation that leads up to the box arriving. And what all of these kind of subscription box companies have done is they've maximized the simple idea that you can make people excited about something by actually slowing down the shopping process. Because if you remember, 15, 20, 30 years ago, if you were going to go buy something, you had to go out and start browsing. You had to go, store by store, shop by shop. You had to browse through the windows. You had to talk to the sales associates. And a lot of retail research suggests that people actually enjoy the hunt, that a big part of what the satisfaction you get from buying something is actually the satisfaction of browsing, not the act of buying. And what these mystery boxes and subscription boxes have done is brought back some of that anticipation that you get from wanting to know what you're going to get, from the kind of thrill of the hunt and the mystery behind what is it going to be. And I think it's just genius because it is an emotion. Anticipation is that tension rising as it gets closer and closer to arriving at your house. And even, I mean, anytime you order something from Amazon, as soon as you get that alert that your box is, 6 stops away on your phone, that's your anticipation starts rising. You're like, oh, it's almost here. It's 5 stops away. It's 4 stops away. And that feeling is such a powerful thing that anyone should be able to utilize.
So suddenly in my mind, I'm thinking about, the mystery box. I'm thinking about this idea of browsing versus buying. I'm thinking about a joke, a well-told joke. The journey is much, the climax is never really in the punchline. The punchline is always a little bit of a letdown. You're on your way down at the punchline. And even when I watch the video that your video with respect to unboxing it, it's never really, it never lives up to the expectations. And maybe that's okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, right? Like, as long as there's some parity between the tension you build and the catharsis you feel when the payoff happens. Like, your joke metaphor is actually genius, Joseph, because like you're raising tension as you're telling the joke. You're raising tension. You're waiting for the punchline. When the punchline is delivered, there's a catharsis and a release. And even if the punchline is not great and it's not like the most funny joke you've ever heard in your life, you're still entertained by the joke and you feel like that was worth the tension we built. I liked how it was told. I felt the catharsis and the release. What happens is, like, for example, don't tell my mom, but my mom is not a very good joke teller. Terrible. A joke. She's really, really bad. And so my mom, when she tells a joke, the build-up takes forever. And then she usually messes up the punchline. And what she's doing is building a ton of tension. There's no catharsis, and you just are kind of frustrated. You're like, is that the end of the joke? I didn't get it. That's when you feel like you've been cheated. So anytime you're using curiosity to earn someone's attention, you do have to be aware that the payoff has to be proportional to that tension you're building along the journey. And if you don't do that, we all know what that is. It's clickbait. People are great at creating a headline that says, like, you're never going to believe what happens in this video. And then you click the link because you're like, I might not believe this. And then when you click it, within 15 seconds, you see what's going to happen. And when the bear eats the guy, you're like, I knew that was coming. I do believe what's going to be in this video. And that's when you're kind of feel cheated. So whenever you're using curiosity, you can either use it for good or you can use it for evil. And I'm imploring on people to just use it for good. Like, we're entrusting you with some real power there.
So in my case, it's a beautiful analogy, because when I'm wishing people happy birthday and saying you got a shout out, which of course there was a shout out today, I just don't mention them by name. The real question is, are they going to be disappointed by actually watching the show? Hopefully not. It's a great show, especially with you on it. Number two, they're seeing their name actually on the show. And by them complaining, which doesn't happen often, they might be surprised by the fact that I respond to them immediately, not with a snarky response, but with a very genuine response. And now I wonder if only there was a way to kind of illustrate this point that what you really want to do is you want to be like coming off the top of the bell curve, as opposed to like falling off a cliff. In a way that you would be able to like draw that or describe that, I wonder. Well, you mean like right after the payoff happens? Yeah, showing like, I wonder if there was a visual way to like demonstrate that kind of like, where you should be at a high at the punchline or the opening of the box, as opposed to like falling off the cliff. Like, if only there was a marker or some way or a white, is it possible?
Do you want me to, why don't we do this? Let me see if I can draw it for you. I think that's what you're...
That would be amazing.
Here, we'll cut to the desktop camera, all right? So this is basically what it looks like, okay? So right here, on this axis, essentially, you've got tension, okay? This is the tension you're building over time, okay? This is your time axis. And like, this is the joke. As you're building it, you're building it, you're building it. This essentially is the punchline or the payoff. And then this is essentially the aftermath, the catharsis, the end of the tension. And you know, to be honest, like I'm actually just was thinking about your you know, your little scenario there with the happy birthday shout outs. One of the things about, especially when it comes to marketing and tension, is that once the catharsis happens, right, they all of a sudden feel like, oh, that was it, that was over, and they feel like this, they got the answer to their question, they got the punchline, they're no longer chasing an answer, the issue's over. And what's really cool is, in a marketing sense, you actually want to put the call to action right before the payoff, right here. Because that's when people are like at their peak of attention and they're so excited, they got to hear the answer. They want to hear the punchline, so they stick around. You're seeding it. They're not going to take the action then, but you're going to get it into their head. And then you can remind them of the call to action here. So if I was going to do my own little version of your happy birthday shout out, I might not even say happy birthday in the email. I might surprise them. I might say, hey, just so you know, I'm doing this thing called CoronaTV. There is a special shout out for a special reason on yesterday's version. You may want to go check it out at, you know, Joseph Jaffe / I forget what it is. Joseph Jaffe.
Yeah. Well, josephjaffe.com/subscribe to join the newsletter, or coronatv.show is the...
Oh, there we go, coronatv.show. So then they go check it out, and then they're going to be really surprised that it's a happy birthday, because they're getting lots of other happy birthday things. They might... what we want to do is make sure that the payoff is more exciting than telling them, because right now we're just telling them, hey, I gave you a happy birthday shout out, and they're like, well, I got a million shout outs for my birthday. But if you build some curiosity, they might even be more excited about the outcome.
So obviously what I did there, that was great. And what I did there was, I was, you know, very not so subtly alluding to, you are the master of the camera angle. So on this episode of You Are the Media, you started doing these things with cameras, and no one had seen it. I hadn't even seen it before. And it just it made an impression, and I just wanted to look who's here. It's Mark Masters himself.
Hey, yes, Mark. For those of you that don't know, Mark Masters is the guy that runs You Are the Media. So he's responsible for connecting us to meeting and melding of the minds in an episode here of Corona TV. And he's such a great guy. If you don't know You Are the Media, you got to check it out. I'm glad Mark is enjoying the show. That's awesome. Yeah, I did have a haircut.
And actually, you know, what we're going to do is I'll be on his show, and then he's going to be on my show later that week, where we'll get to kind of like debrief one another. There were a bunch of things on this episode or on this lunch, and I wanted to just touch on two of them, because I thought that they were unbelievably profound, and I don't want to hoard them. I don't want to hoard them to myself. It would be unfair. So the first was this idea that you need to come up with a question that Google doesn't have or know the answer to. I wonder if you could just talk about that briefly, because I thought it was a brilliant point from a content strategy standpoint, from a differentiation standpoint. So take it away.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, if I can just back up and tell you how this all came about, you know, for me, trying to find a way to stand out in a crowded marketplace, there's lots of great advice on how to do it. There are plenty of articles that will tell you how to become a thought leader, or how you can write articles that will get some search traffic that'll then boom and blossom your business. And what I realized pretty quickly is that the kind of stuff that actually engages an audience, not just gets them to your content, but actually engages them in the content, has very little to do with the how-to kind of content. It's the how to think kind of content. And when I started looking for, like advice or insight on how to attract people that want to challenge the conventional wisdom, I didn't get very far. And I realized that for me, I've always found success by actually taking all those how-to articles, finding the ones that really annoy me, and then looking for an answer, a solution to that question. And if there's no online advice, it turns out it's for me to answer. It's an opportunity for me to go on a journey and look for the answer. I mean, we've been talking a lot, Joseph, about the curiosity factor. And that whole adventure, my adventure really started when I started reading lots of how-to articles about the perfect length for a video. And I remember the day I read a HubSpot article. Nothing against HubSpot. I love their content. I love their platform. I think they're great people. But somebody wrote an article on HubSpot about the perfect length for a YouTube video. And it said it was 2 minutes and 43 seconds was the perfect length for a video. And I thought, this is crazy. There's no way that's the perfect length for a video. How do I know this? Because I myself will binge watch, like I've just binge watched over the course of a weekend with my wife, this new show on Netflix called Indian Matchmaking. Have you seen it, Joseph?
No. I think I've heard of it though.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And that show is 8 full hours, right? So I just binge watched 8 full hours. That's way more than 2 minutes and 43 seconds. And so I started trying to find out why, first, people say it should be 2 minutes and 43 seconds, and why people will watch 8 full hours of Indian Matchmaking or Stranger Things or Game of Thrones and not complain. And that's what led me down this journey to the curiosity factor, because the way that television grabs and holds our attention is they use a very simple formula. They create some tension over time and they have a great payoff, and they just invite you to keep chasing answers. So it all starts by asking a question Google can't answer. You have to get out of Expertville and like march your way into what I call visionary town. You just got to look for some green pastures and try to find your own answer for a question that you wish there was an answer for.
What I love about this idea is it's not dissimilar to the startup world. And when I'm counseling or mentoring founders, I always say to them, open your eyes, open your ears. What do you see? What do you hear? What frustrates you? How many times have you said, man, like, I'm always waiting for the bus. I always just miss the bus. Why isn't there some way to be able to determine the bus schedule? Every time you've asked that's curiosity. That's the question.
That's it. And
that opens up possibilities for startups that can change the world, for life-changing moments.
Absolutely. Look, it can be used for personal exploration. It can be used for a startup, for a solo business. It can be used by a Fortune 500 company. The thing is, we need to encourage more people to ask more questions. And we're great at trying to put together a brainstorm meeting and where, some executive gets up and says, I have a big question I want to ask you. Let's come up with solutions. I think the real first step is coming up with the questions because the right question leads you on a journey and where you may realize that the question you were just asking is actually the wrong question. And so it's like a process of finding the right question to answer. But the journey, it's a quest. I like to tell people it's not a straight line. It's not like you come up with one of these questions and then you find the answer and boom, you're off. You can solve the problem and you've got $1 million startup. It doesn't work like that. What happens is you ask a question, you realize that you found the answer to that question, but it's raised a new question, which also might have an answer, which you realize is not the right answer, but that raises a new question. I've been working on this idea I call the loyalty loop for a really long time. And the quest I've been on is 3 years long, and I still don't have the answer. I have a bunch of answers, and I've learned a ton, but I haven't found the answer yet because I'm constantly finding a new question I should be asking myself. Like even Joseph at the beginning, you talked about surprise and delight. And people love to use the phrase surprise and delight when it comes to consumer experiences. And every time I hear surprise and delight now, I was like, what does that actually mean? And it took me down this path of where I was actually investigating how slot machines work. because slot machine theory is all about surprise and delight. And they've manufactured how to get you surprised and delighted with the game, then frustrated, then surprised and delighted with the game. And they keep doing it over and over again. And it's led to so much insight by just asking, what is surprise and delight? Why do we use it all the time? What should it be? Where did it come from? So ask yourself some questions. Go on the journey and trust the quest. You'll be so overjoyed with the amount of insight you learn and the opportunities to do something new and interesting. Man, I get fired up about that.
I mean, me too, and I want to like jump around and do a bunch of things, and but I think what I'll do first of all, by the way, Frank Ramirez says he's loving this. Of course he's loving this. Why wouldn't you love this?
Thanks, Frank.
Awesome. This is awesome. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk about things that make me curious about you. And Steve Garfield says, why is the trunk on that black car open?
It's a great question. We are going to answer it in just a few minutes.
All right. So there you go, building anticipation, right?
That's Steve. You're exactly right. Steve is an awesome old friend of mine from Boston, and Steve, you're right. Like that's a perfect. Like this is a very small answer that you would like an answer to, a question you would like an answer to, and I know that it's not that exciting, so I can't keep you in suspense for the next 20 minutes, but I can probably tease it up for another minute or two. It's a Lego car. And maybe you guys can guess what movie it's from. It's actually a movie car, and the trunk is pretty cool, actually, Steve. Here, I'll show you quickly. Maybe I can actually use my desktop camera for this. Let's give it a shot. You ready? Here we go. I don't know if you can see inside there, but it's got some nitrous oxide tanks. Maybe that helps you tell which movie it's from too. I don't know, but it's.
I'm waiting for the guesses.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the guesses too. Is the engine cool or what? Look at that. And inside, it's got like a suicide door. The steering wheel actually turns the front wheel. Any guesses? Did anyone get any guesses? There's a fire extinguisher on this side. Does that help?
I'm waiting to see. I'm letting people guess, and we'll see in the comments.
All right, we'll see in the comments. I have another car up there actually as well. That's a James Bond car.
I'll leave you in anticipation whether they know it or not. But
yeah, that's perfect. Mad Max, good guess. It does look like a Mad Max car. It's not Mad Max though. That was a good guess. It's not that far. Yes, Joey. High five to Joey Dumont. Joey Dumont got it. It is from the Fast and the Furious. That is absolutely correct.
And also, Seth, you got it wrong. It was Fast and the Furious, not Fat. So close.
So close, Seth. No, Seth is just more efficient with his typing than everybody else.
He certainly is. All right, so let's talk about curiosity. So here's another question, which is, Frank said, how do you match your bow tie with your tie?
Well, I match my bow ties, my ties. I actually use this bow tie.
I think maybe you meant your glasses.
My glasses. Oh yeah, that makes more sense. I match my bow tie. I have fewer pairs of glasses now because my prescription just changed, and I used to collect glasses, but now every time my prescription changes, it's like an investment to get all the new glasses up to date. So I've been wearing the orange ones for about a year now. And I have a couple others, but I do try to match my glasses and my bow tie. And when I'm on the road speaking, I try to match my bow tie and my glasses to the theme colors of the event, whenever that's possible.
Even smarter and also subtle, subtle and yet obvious, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. The people that usually notice are the people from the marketing team for the event. They're always like, oh, that's our orange, or that's our red, or that's our blue. No one else usually notices consciously. Subconsciously, I think they eat it up.
As long as it's the person signing the checks, I would say mission accomplished. So I mentioned to you that I was glad that you were wearing your bow tie. Because I thought, I said I wanted to ask some questions that made me curious about you. So I decided we play a game of who wore it better,
I love
you or Scott Monty.
Come on. Scott Monty always wears a bow tie better than everybody else.
So I had to do that. I could not resist you versus Monty. So I have another question about you. So this is interesting, right? Because from a branding standpoint, I kind of love it when people are not expected and predictable, where everybody says, you know, you're Andrew Davis, you should own Andrew Davis on everything. You own pretty much Andrew Davis on nothing. So first of all, this is Andrew Davis, right? I mean, it seems like you could probably get this website if you wanted to, but you've chosen not to.
That's right.
Why is that?
That's hilarious. Sign me up for, I want to be a law firm.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, you signed your name on today as Drew Davis. And your website, of course, is, I guess, is it meant to be AKA Drew?
Yeah,
or is it
also known as Drew Davis.
Of course, there's Drew Davis here.
Yeah, it's ironic. Like, I'm a guy that spends all day thinking about and asking questions about and going on a quest to learn more about marketing and branding and business, but I have a branding problem myself. It's really bad.
Well, I don't necessarily know that you do have a branding problem, because
that's good.
Because you're memorable, and you're unforgettable, which is similar but different. And there are things that you leave your mark, whether it's the bow tie, whether it's the matching glasses, you know, whether it's the camera angles. I really am not just saying this gratuitously, but I just left this session, you know, when I saw you the first time, and I was like, I got to have this guy on my show. Like, there was so much that I just found absolutely fascinating, and I don't even know if you spoke about curiosity in that session. I think you were talking about.
I don't think I did. No, yeah, I think I was talking about. I actually don't remember that one specifically, except for Mark and you and the rest of the gang that was there. I might have been talking about embracing the constraints. I've been thinking about like with all this Corona lockdown stuff. I've been thinking about how constraints actually kind of help you with creativity as well, and that's been a lot of fun, as you know, to kind of explore as another quest I've been on. So you might have been talking about that.
So let's talk about that in a moment. But this was one of the other things that you spoke about, and I think this also talks to a constraint, right? It talks to a beautiful constraint that is a location, a physicality, bricks and mortar. We can't travel, mobility. So I wonder if you could just talk briefly about not just this beautiful anecdote and why Warsaw and what is Warsaw, but also what it birthed from this, which is one of your books.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so when I was traveling on the road doing 55 or 60 speaking gigs a year, I ended up flying into Indianapolis, Indiana, and then driving a few hours, about 2 hours north, for an event in this town of Warsaw. And a lot of times when I'm on the road, I like to actually take the slow road, to get there instead of the highway, because you really get a sense for the place, and you get to stop in some small towns and meet some small town people, which I love. So I took the slow route. And as I was driving to Warsaw, Indiana, all of these towns were old, kind of industrial, rundown, Rust Belt towns. They were obviously in their heyday in the 70s and 60s and 50s, they were big, thriving industrial towns. But today, they were kind of washouts. And I thought, who in their right mind has hired me to come here to speak? There's going to be nothing in this little town of Warsaw, Indiana. And as I drove into Warsaw, Indiana, it was like an oasis. It was this beautiful, charming little town with beautiful trees and parking lots that were full of people. Main Street was packed with cars. There were people eating outside. I hadn't seen this for 90 or 100 miles in my drive. I hadn't even seen people, really. And I thought, what has this town done differently than all those other little towns? And as I was leaving the town, there was a sign as you left that said, "Thank you for visiting Warsaw, Indiana." And on the bottom, it said, "Warsaw, Indiana is the blank capital of the world." Now, if you can guess what the blank is, maybe you saw it on the sign very quick. Oh, Steve Garfield got it. The orthopedic capital of the world. That's what it said on the sign. And I thought, the orthopedic capital of the world, what is that? Well, it turns out that Warsaw, Indiana, every single year, they pump $13 billion, that's with a B, through this little town of 20,000 people. $13 billion. It is known for being the orthopedic capital of the world, and it's built a massive economy around it. And I started wondering, after that, as I drove back to Indianapolis to get on the next plane, I thought, is it that easy? Can you market a place by filling in a blank? And for the next 3 years, I investigated. I went on a journey and then wrote a book called Town Inc., which is all about kind of the findings of that. And the truth is, yes, you can make a huge difference in your economy. The short answer is, towns with a claim, meaning towns that have filled in that blank, we are the blank capital of the world or the state or the county or the country, those places pump an average of $3 billion a year more into their economies than similar towns without a claim. And the book kind of tries to break down what I saw in the towns that were successful doing it. It was a fascinating and really fun experience for me.
I also love it because it dials up the physicality, what has become today a liability, right? A weakness, which is the bricks and mortar, the established, the durability of the asset, as opposed to the ether of the internet and social media. And this just shows that if you do things well, the same like you do, right? You don't need to own your name on a website or on Twitter. You just need to have great, compelling content, be consistent at delivering that content, and do that with that curiosity gap in place.
Absolutely. Yeah, Warsaw, Indiana actually built a nonprofit that every day, all they do is wake up and say, how can we ensure that tomorrow we are still the orthopedic capital of the world? They just ask themselves that question every day, and they've created partnerships with educational institutions. They've built a hospital for doing surgeries there. That town has no international airport, yet they have a German company is now based in Warsaw, Indiana, because it's the orthopedic capital of the world. We need to embrace the idea that the place we do business is just as important as the business we do, and we should market that way. If your About Us page doesn't say why you're based where you're based, you need to go and revisit it, because it actually can add value to the service or product or whatever it is you sell or provide.
And that was the killer takeaway that I remember so well. So thank you for enforcing it. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of what's got you interested right now, and and what I love about people like you and quite frankly like us is that it's always that's why it's one of the questions I ask my guests, which is, what are you excited about now? What's got your interest right now? Because it's the right now, it's the stuff that gets you out of bed in the morning. And I think one thing that you're excited about right now is looking at which companies are reinventing themselves or rethinking themselves during this difficult and trying time of COVID. So I wanted to let you talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk with you.
Well, I've just found it fascinating to see that businesses who were told, like digital is the future and you've got to be digital. It's not like they didn't hear this. They heard it for 10 or 15 years, but it wasn't until the coronavirus really forced them to rethink their business that they acted on it. And, for so long, a lot of these companies kind of took for granted the fact that they should have a digital strategy or a digital presence or whatever that means, that they should figure it out. They were just kind of coasting along. But when this hit, they forced themselves to think about it. For example, I met a guy who owns a closet organization company, and his main business is he has 300 consultants that go out and help you organize your closets or your cabinets or your kitchen, and they consult. It's very much kind of Marie Kondo, vibe. It's not Marie Kondo, but it's very similar. Marie Kondo, sorry. And basically, the coronavirus hit, and he thought, well, now I can't go into people's homes. We're all on lockdown. I'm going to have to lay off all 300 employees. What are we going to do? And he asked his staff at a staff meeting, and the executive team wasn't sure what to do. But a timid little intern in the back of the room raised her hand and said, "Hey, I have an idea." And they said, "We want to hear it." And she said, what if we just put up a form on our website that says, would you like to try a virtual home consultation for your closet organization needs? And it'll be really easy. We don't need any fancy technology. I can do it. I did it for my website for a school project. And the executive team said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And within 24 hours, they had the form up. And within 48 hours, they had 90 appointments scheduled for a fee. These weren't free appointments. These were people willing to pay to do closet organization online. The business today has been skyrocketing. They have not done any in-home appointments, and they've hired new employees. And this was from an intern who was willing to raise their hand and answer a question that was posed by the CEO, who was in fear of losing the business. We've got to embrace the constraints. We've got to look for opportunities everywhere. And I've seen this over and over again. I have two other funny ones, Joseph. I don't know if you want to jump in. I could keep going about constraints.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Keep going.
There are two other ones that I think are fascinating, and maybe you saw one of these. The one that I really loved is it's a nonprofit that runs a farm, and on the farm they do lots of they do lots of corporate training, about team building and what it takes to raise animals and nurture animals is all about building culture for these corporations. Well, when COVID hit, they had to cancel all the corporate clients that were going to come by and do this training for obvious reasons. And so they didn't know what to do because basically this nonprofit was going to have $0 if that was the case. So they came up with this genius idea called GOAT to Meeting, GOAT to Meeting. Have you seen it?
This is part of the part of the You Are the Media thing, which I just loved.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot I told that there. Yeah. So GOAT to Meeting was basically they decided they'd take for a donation, you can have a goat show up in the middle of your corporate Zoom meeting for $65, or you can do like a whole virtual goat bombing of your Zoom meeting or GoToMeeting at any time. And they got a sponsorship from GoToMeeting, GOTO Meeting, because GoToMeeting thought GOAT to Meeting was just an awesome marketing idea. I think it's genius. They embrace the constraints and come up with such a smart idea. And then the last one I'll tell you about quickly is it's
wait before you do, I'm going to tell you a quick story. For my 40th birthday, which will be in 10 years time, kidding. But for my 40th birthday, my friend and I, who we share, we're about 3 weeks apart, for two of his friends just on a lark bought him a goat, funny enough. And they brought the goat to this party. I swear, they brought this, and it was in its little pen with its hay and whatever the hell goats eat. And for whatever reason, he decided, just because he's a stubborn SOB, he kept the goat. They had no intention of him keeping the goat. He actually, they named him. His name was Little G, and the goat lived with them for a while until one day the goat charged one of his kids.
Oh no!
Everyone was fine, but don't worry, the goat was fine too. They found a home for the goat to live out the rest of its years in peace and tranquility. But you know what? I am going to, as soon as we're done after the Zoom after show, I'm going to go ahead and book a goat for my next Zoom meeting. For sure.
You have to do it. It's so awesome. And invite me to that meeting. I would love to be part of it. I've only seen video clips. I haven't done it yet. Oh, that's so funny.
Right. So tell us very quickly the third. I want to hear that.
It's really easy, but it alludes to the fact that Mark Masters made fun of my really long haircut from the You Are the Media event. Basically, there was a bunch of stylists who couldn't do hairstyles anymore with the pandemic, so they were shut down. They created a website overnight called YouProbablyNeedAHaircut.com, and they invited people to sign up for a 30-minute or 60-minute session where the hairstylist would teach your, significant other or spouse or partner or roommate how to cut your hair live while they cut it. And they'd even send you a package, a mystery box with all the stuff you needed to accomplish this safely and with the right tools. So another genius model of people embracing the constraints, moving quickly, and finally finding a way to monetize their business in a way they never thought was possible. So that's my embrace the constraints stuff. Just remember that creativity is the sum of all the constraints. That's something that actually Charles Eames said, the guy who made the beautiful Eames chairs. Famous architect and designer, and it's just such a great way of thinking about all the challenges you have as the fuel for your creativity instead of the obstacles in your way.
And also, you know, the other aspect, as I said to you, creativity and curiosity are joined at the hip.
Absolutely.
And for those people that watch the show every day, I always come up with a quote. And I bring it in at the right time, hopefully. And then I ask my guest to guess who said the quote. And I secretly hope that they will never be able to. But this one, you might be able to guess. And I always say that every day, which actually makes it more frustrating because I am a sadist.
When you know what? Hold on. When you're curious, you'll find lots of interesting things to do. I think it's Benjamin Franklin.
It is not Benjamin Franklin, but it's also someone who has said there are so many quotes that this person has said about curiosity. And when I tell you, it will be obvious. It's Walt Disney.
Oh, I should have get.
Sorry, they were so close. I thought you might get it actually.
It's such a great quote. I should have gotten that.
But it's a beautiful idea, and you know, one of the things Drew Davis, who's with me today, one of the things when you look at those embrace the constraints, common threads or red threads, there was this idea not just about, well, I guess we better become a virtual speaker now because that's the way the world's. What they actually were able to do is embrace virtual, but I wouldn't even say arguably, I would say inarguably, they actually ended up producing a better product in the process. An intimacy, an experience that would not have existed without the constraint. And that's the lesson. The constraint actually challenges you to be better if you bring your curiosity to the table.
100%. That was beautifully said, Joseph. Beautiful.
Well, I mean, I'm just the closer. You're the starting pitcher, the middle relief. I just get to reframe. That's all I do.
That was really good.
But this has been. I'm trying to see some of the comments. There's so many comments coming in. You know what? If you want to continue the conversation, come and hang out with us in the Zoom after show. I will give you the link if you need it. But first, I'll do that, and then I will do that, which is find out more about Andrew at AKA Drew Davis. I will do that. That says follow him on Drew Davis here. I will do that. That says subscribe to his Loyalty Loop series on bit.ly/loop loyalty, or just go and search for Goat Davis, Drew Davis, Andrew Davis. Not
just keep clicking. You're just looking for the guy with the bow tie and the glasses. You'll find me.
You will find him. This has been. I mean, I knew I was going to have fun today. I knew I was going to learn today. It's a somber day here in the US. We passed an awful milestone. I thought to myself, do I recognize it? Do I acknowledge it at the beginning? I'm acknowledging it at the end, which is recognizing that even when we end on such a high, at some point you have to come back down to earth. But hopefully people like you will inspire others to embrace those constraints, deal with the challenges that we have today, and come out at the other end with hope, positivity, and optimism. So I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for doing this every single day. It's not easy, and I do appreciate what you're doing, who you're doing it for, and I can't wait to be in the after show with the rest of the people who've been watching. It's been so much fun.
It has been, and we're going to go next door now. Thanks again, Andrew.
All right, I'll see you there.